Salutations everyone, and welcome to What Mattered, the show where I tell you what mattered in the news this week. Here is all the relevant Nintendo NX rumors. Seriously though, every single week there's a new NX rumor and they all conflict with one each other, all from different sources, citing just ludicrous things that could not be true. So let's just wait until actually Nintendo says something before we have any thoughts on the matter, because it's ridiculous. This past weekend was San Diego Comic-Con, which is why I was MIA last week with no What Mattered episode for the first time since I started the show, because I was busy at Comic-Con, but there'll be other videos to talk about that. But there's a lot of things that we can talk about that came out of Comic-Con, including the Justice League teaser trailer. It's in very early production, so there's a lot of this that's not going to be in the finished film, or they're going to make changes, but it is still a teaser trailer and we got to see, the cool stuff. Now, of course, people have their own reactions to the trailer, including one that we're going to continue hearing for years and years, and that, oh, Aquaman looks cool and he's badass finally. Please, for the love of God, read a comic book so you don't look like a fucking idiot when you say things like this. Aquaman has never been lame. He's always been awesome and badass. Read a book. It's where all the movies are coming out of these days. But yes, he definitely looks like a different Arthur Curry than we've imagined in the past. Barry Allen looks, I think, better than what we saw with the Batman vs. Superman time travel thingy. That was weird. Got to see more Gal Gadot. Of course, she's got her own movie that'll be coming out before Justice League. And we got to see Batman. Obviously, no Superman because of what happened in the last film, but he's, of course, going to be in the movie. We don't get to see what exactly they're going to be fighting. This is very preliminary stuff. But, I mean, there were some cool things to take out of it. The writers that we have on board for this one are a little bit more to look forward to than, say, some of the past superhero DC films for many of you. Batman seems to be the focus of the film. This is, of course, culminating into a group Justice League venture, which some people are saying they're stealing from the Avengers when Justice League came out before the Avengers. Once again, read a book. They're cool. They have words and pictures. It's good shit. While they might have tried to do way too much in BVS to set up for the cinematic universe in Justice League, they have, I think, much more freedom in this film, so we get to see what they do with each individual character. The Flash is faster, obviously, just faster than we've ever seen him in, the other TV shows that we have seen him. Like in the books, like in the cool books with the pictures and stuff. Dude's fast, and that's really cool. We got to see Cyborg, we got to see a little bit of Aquaman, and Wonder Woman, and Batman's suit looks a little darker, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of things to speculate and look forward to. Well, this is early stuff, but it still looks like it can be good, but there's no reason to be super down or super high on the film as of yet. We know that Ben Affleck and Jeff Johns are working on the script for the next solo Batman film, and there's been rumors about things that are going to be incorporated into this film, whether it's time or the amount of movies or who's going to be in the film as a villain or a companion. But we have heard a couple of things that might work together. We've heard early rumors that there's just a ton of villains in this movie, which a lot of people are like, we don't like it when a film is saturated with villains, and some of those have merit depending on the film that you're talking about. But it can work with the newest rumor that the film will be taking place in Arkham Asylum. So yeah, if Batman's locked up or trapped or somehow in Arkham Asylum, then yeah, it's going to be the most villains in a movie ever. And that can be amazing. We all have played the Batman Arkham games, and those are fantastic with strong narratives and great action and acting and all that good stuff. But that's not to say this is a formula for success for a film, because there's many different ways they can trip over themselves. But these are just rumors, and we know that Ben Affleck isn't perfectly satisfied with the script that he's co-wrote with Jeff Johns as of last month. So they're still working out a lot, so I think we're still going to be hearing more rumors until we can sink our teeth into something concrete, especially since the film doesn't even have a released year window. So we're going to wait and see here. We have, for once, some confirmed rumors, this time with Spiderman Homecoming at Comic-Con. It was announced that the Vulture will be the bad guy in the new reboot of Spider-Man starring Tom Holland. We know that Michael Keaton is attached to the project and that he's been casted as a villain accordingly, and he already had experience as Birdman, so the Vulture seems like a perfect fit. For those who don't know, the Vulture, who hasn't been in a movie thus far with Spider-Man, which kind of makes sense, they're going to want to differentiate with, no goblins or lizards or octopi of any sort. He's the second villain that Spider-Man ever faced in the comics. He's a super old guy, not really that interesting or threatening compared to the rest of the, sinister villains that he has in his repertoire. But if they rework things, make him a compelling, interesting character with some backstory and some acting, which we know Michael Keaton can do, then it can be quite compelling. The Vulture was early on in the Amazing Spider-Man reboot was rumored to be the villain. That turned out to be the Lizard, and it's interesting. We know that Marvel finally has some creative control, so that's a reason to be excited. A lot of people like Tom Holland's rendition of Spider-Man in his 2 minutes of screen time in Civil War, even though that's kind of hard to do incorrectly, and people love to go crazy about little things that aren't as amazing or comparisonly cool. But still, there's no reason to be down on the film as of yet, unless you just really wanted to see Mysterio. There's rumors that Shocker is also going to be in the film, maybe one or two other minor characters playing minor roles, but we don't know. All we know is the Vulture is confirmed to be the villain, and at least we're going to get some amazing aerial fights. That's going to be cool. And we got some very interesting news at Comic-Con regarding Guardians of the Galaxy 2, of which we're probably not going to see any trailer, a teaser, or otherwise until the Doctor Strange movie comes out later this year. But we do know who Star-Lord's father is, which was the, area of debate and questioning since the last film's ending on the question of who his father is. And we knew early on it wasn't going to be who his father is in the comics, and that they're going to go a completely different direction. And boy, are they! James Gunn has casted Kurt Russell to play Ego, the sentient planet, as Star-Lord's father. Yeah, a planet somehow conceived this little half-human Earth boy. Interesting direction. James Gunn apparently has had this idea for a long time since, going on the Guardians 1 script. So he has an idea of how to go about this, and reportedly, after seeing how much money Guardians made, the producers, or the bigwigs were like, sure, make us more money. But once he showed him the story that he was going for, they're like, alright, yeah, this is cool. So I'm gonna hold out on judgment thus far, but that's really weird that they're gonna have a planet be his dad. So I don't know exactly how this is going to tie in. Obviously, he's laid down some groundwork, and while the first movie was more about Star-Lord's mom, this one's going to be more about Star-Lord's dad. So, that's interesting news. Baby daddy adds a planet. Voiced by Kurt Russell. So, don't know how exactly that's going to work. How they're going to change things around. But hey, it's Guardians of the Galaxy, so it wouldn't be weird if it was weird. And it's weird. Also premiering at Comic-Con was The Killing Joke, the rated R Batman animated movie. And that's where it's made its premiere. Also had some one night only in select theaters. So unless you lived in a metropolitan area, you probably didn't get to see it. I was lucky enough to be in that area, so I did get to see the film, and there was a lot of people with a lot of opinions on the film. Of course, The Killing Joke, one of the most beloved comics-contained storylines of all time. It's Alan Moore, and it's very, very graphic and violent, so you had to do it R if you were going to do it, and they did it, and they stayed true to a lot of the things in the comic very, very well. It was great to hear Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy as Joker and Batman respectively once again, as well as Tara Strong, who was the original Batgirl, reprising her role as well. There were changes that were made in the first half an hour of the film that you could see that they kind of wanted to build up the narrative in a different way, and it took a really weird turn with a decision that they made that was nowhere near in any comic I've ever heard of. But it was pretty dark. Wasn't super gory or things, but we saw people dying and blood and all that good stuff. We got to see Mark Hamill be the Joker, which is always a treat. And of course, Kevin Conroy, the Batman of Batmans, playing Batman. It had early on especially, it had some things that were questionable and or objectionable to some people, but overall, it did a good job at containing the storyline in the way that Alan Moore first envisioned it, as well as the tone and the violence and the wacky jokeriness of it. So, a lot of people have some strong opinions that I can sort of sympathize with, depending on how far off the rails they want to go with their reviews. But it was still a Batman film, not as much Batman as most other Batman films that we have seen, even in animated versions. But it was one of the better ones. Maybe not the best. I still think Under the Red Hood is the best Batman animated solo-contained film. If you're not counting Mask the Phantasm, because that did have a theatrical release worldwide. But regardless, Hamill and Conroy, you can't go wrong with that. Square Enix is teaming up with Legendary Digital Studios and production company DJ2 on a Life is Strange live-action digital series. Very awesome news. Life is Strange, if you haven't played it, the first episode I think is still available on free for all the platforms. It was my game of the year for 2015, and I think not just one of the greatest games ever made, but one of the greatest narratives ever told in the history of time. I love the game so much, and it's so great to hear that we're going to be getting more out of this universe and of this story. It's going to be a retelling of the video game, so of course, with the game with choices, there's now going to be, I guess, canonical choices, but not really. DJ2 is handling the production, which has had, a history of video game adaptation series. They've done the Dead Rising series on Crackle. They're also doing Sony's Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and now they're going to be handling this live action series. A lot of people really want Ashley Birch to reprise Chloe, and while that would be fantastic, probably isn't all that feasible with what they're going to want to go with. But oh my god, I'm so excited for this, and I really hope it's really, really good, because it's such a good story and lends itself, as they said, very much to a live action adaptation. And it could be the best thing ever. Probably not, but Your games for gold for August go as follows. On the Xbox One, you get Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate, as well as WWE 2K16. And on the 360, as well as via backwards compatibility, Spelunky and Beyond Good and Evil HD. And reaching out of the grab bag of obscurity, for your PlayStation Plus free August games go as follows. For the PS4, you get Rebel Galaxy and Tricky Towers. And for PS3, you get Yakuza 5 and Retrograde. Any Hootie and Blowfish, that is what mattered this week. If you'd like to know what matters in the future, you can hit the subscribe button. One of these videos comes out every single Saturday, if you don't count last Saturday, because I was at Comic-Con. But I will be here in the future. Any comments will be appreciated down in the comment sections below. And I hope you all have a good week.